the floor of the Senate, where the Senate has resumed the second batch of the screening of ministerial nominees. Well, at the moment, the Senate has reconvened and then resolved into committee of the whole, where the second batch of the ministerial nominees will be screened. Earlier, the Senate had screened Uchechukwu Aga from Abia State, Senator George Akume from Benue State, Senator Godswill Akpabio from Akwa Ibom State, and Chukwuemeka Nwajoba from Imo State. Well, during that screening, senators demanded to know from the nominees' areas and what they'll bring to bear to assist the federal government in achieving most of its projects and plans, especially in the area of diversification of the Nigerian economy, improving power generation, creating an all-inclusive growth, and then stabilizing the oil sector, especially the NNPC. This is one of the major oversight functions that the Ninth Senate will be performing: screening and confirmation of ministerial nominees. It's a very significant exercise for any parliament. A total of 43 nominees were submitted to the Senate. And then the Chairman Senate Ad hoc Committee on Media and Publicity, Senator Adedayo Adeyeye, had briefed National Assembly correspondents that the Senate has resolved to postpone its recess to ensure that all the nominees are confirmed. Now, inside the chamber is the former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi from Rivers State. He's the next nominee to be screened. Rotimi Amechi was born on the 27th of May, 1965. He had his primary education at St. Teresa's Primary School, Ubima, from 1970 to 1976. He also had his secondary school education at Okolobiri Government Secondary School between 1977 to 1982. Where he obtained his West African School Certificate examination. Between 1983 and 1987, he attended the University of Port Harcourt, where he obtained his Bachelor of Arts in English and Masters in English. He was a two-time governor of Rivers State and the immediate past Minister of Transportation. He's now at the podium to answer questions from senators.
Order. I want to say
Rotima Mechi is also the Director General of the Muhammadu Buhari Campaign Organization in 2015 and 2019. He is a member Board of Trustees of the United Nations Institute of Training and Research.
We have on the podium Honorable Rotimi Amechi, the nominee from Rivers State. Honorable nominee, on behalf of my colleagues here, I want to welcome you to the Senate, and this will be your second time of standing in that position for screening. We have your CV with us, but it is customary to ask you if there is anything that you need to highlight that is in the CV, or anything that is not in the CV and you feel that is relevant and helpful for you to tell the Senate. Once again, I welcome you for this screening exercise. You can address the Senate.
Distinguished President of the Senate, principal officers of the principal officers, usually if you appear before Congress, you're intimidated, so please kindly pardon my voice. Principal officers of the Senate, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. My name is Chibike Rotimi Amechi. My CV is with you. Just to highlight that I've served the Rivers State as a Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly for 8 years, served Rivers State as Governor of Rivers State, and served the Federal Republic of Nigeria as Minister for Transportation for 3.5 years, let me not say 4 years, 3.5 years. And I'm privileged once more to appear before the distinguished members of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to present myself for further screening. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, Peter, what is it? Distinguished? Is it a point of order? Okay, let me finish. Distinguished colleagues, we have agreed on a policy on how we go about the screening of nominees. And I just want to reiterate that policy. That policy, we have agreed that any nominee with legislative background would enjoy the privilege that we normally extend to such nominees. And I can see this nominee is so clever that he emphasized he's been a speaker, not only a member of the legislature. So based on this, the procedure we have adopted is to ask the two leaders in the chamber, the Senate leader and the Senate minority leader, to speak on our behalf. And then I'll round up. Senate minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Victor, haven't I called you?
Order. Order. Thank you, Mr. President. In your position as the chair, my name is Naya Baribe. I represent Abia South, and I am the minority leader. Mr. President, let me say that I will have some discussion with you after. But I have also had a discussion with the Rivers Caucus, and they claim that they don't have a discussion with me. So I don't know whether you can let a member of the Rivers State Caucus confirm or not whether I had a discussion with them.
You can sit down, Minority Leader. I want to respond to that before I take any point of order. This policy was adopted consciously and overwhelmingly, and I will advise us that we don't shift the goalpost. We stick with it, and I know that maybe few of us may have reservation, but this is a democracy. So, Minority Leader, I want to believe that this Senate will not change that policy. We are going to stick with it to the end. And I want to advise that if you have anything to say, to convey the general idea of what you should ordinarily say, I would advise that you do so. Point of order. Senator Mohammed Goji.
Mr. President, point order 3. 2. Mr. Commissioner, I would like to read it. 3.2. Nomination of senators to serve as presiding officers and appointments of principal officers and other officers of the Senate or on any parliamentary delegation shall be in accordance with the ranking of senators. In determining ranking, the following order shall apply. A. 1. Senators returning based on number of times elected. 2. Senators who have been members of the House of Representatives. 3. Senators elected as senators for the first time. Our order here does not recognize House of Assembly. And I remember I'm a victim. When I came to this Senate in 2011, I was a member of House Assembly before. And when I insisted that I had a cognate experience, they said, no, the order of this Senate does not recognize House of Assembly. So I don't know whether we are changing these rules. If we are not changing these rules, I am in support of the nominee. He is my friend, former governor is my friend. But I want us to stick to these rules. These rules do not recognize House of Assembly. And I read the order, but lift it up.
Mike. Well, distinguished colleagues, I agree totally it's not in the rules, but we can regulate ourselves even without things in the rule. So we adopt this, we adopt this because we should extend this privilege to the House of Assembly. I think there is nothing wrong in that. The present nominee is only going to be a beneficiary by chance. It's not designed. We are not doing it for him. So, distinguished colleagues, he's going to benefit this not because we came up with this policy to support him. We said so even before he came. So it's not like he's going to benefit because we are going to do it now. Any person, nominee who passed through a legislative house, and that will include State Assembly, House of Representatives, and Senate. So the Songwe Senator, Danjo Mohamed Goje, the Songwe Senator, Danjo Mohamed Goje, your friend is going to be a beneficiary of this policy. So, Senate Minority Leader, please make your remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you recall, I had said that I would want for us to have a discussion after. This was with regard to this. But going forward, another reason why I wanted Rivers State recognized was the impression that had been created by the way we treated the matter of Akwa Ibom, which we didn't want it to happen, that somebody is against somebody on the floor. Nobody is against anybody. In that case, we want to make a comment on my good friend, who is another donation from the PDP.
8 years speaker.
Having been 8 years speaker of PDP and 8 years governor of PDP and chairman of Governors Forum of PDP.
Yes, correct. Well guided.
So now that we know that he has his DNA in PDP,
We don't have any problem.
we have no problems with him.
Please go ahead.
And only want to state that I have spoken to the Rivers State Caucus, and they have asked me to please convey this message to you, that they expect that you are Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which includes Rivers State, which also means that whatever you can do as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in making sure that peace and security is sustained and maintained in Rivers State, that you should please do so. And also, to always recognize, as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that I have had interaction with you, and you have told me that the Eastern Corridor regarding the railways, that if you are returned as the Minister for Transportation again, that will be your priority. Eastern Corridor goes from south-south all the way to northeast. As you're doing well for the Western Corridor, as you're doing well for Ibadan to Lagos Railway, that we want that same thing on this side, including Abo to Onitsha, so that we can move goods through the Ajaokuta Warri Railway. And to go further, to say, sir, let us also expect from you that the Nigerian railways will be done within Nigeria before we go outside of Nigeria to connect any of our neighbors, because charity begins at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Senate Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President sitting on the chair, my distinguished colleagues and nominee. My only remarks here is to note that antecedents and in genetics, they also require some improvements. And I think what we are having is an improved genetics and a minister of transportation for the entire country. Mr. Chairman, my own real addition to this issue is that Honorable Chibuke Amechi, I had the pleasure of knowing him very closely because I was a member of the Land Transport Committee. And with him, we had gone on several negotiations up to China, and I have seen a lot of the work that has been done on the railway infrastructure in this country. I have made a lot of visits to the areas where he has worked. Now, for somebody who is new, to come into that position, I think is going to be quite a drawback. So we thought that the president, in considering, will take him back to his previous assignment so that he can be able to reconnect with the initiatives that he had already started and to see them to conclusion. My only plea, similar to what the minority leader has said, is that our own northwestern sector of the country, we know are in the plan. Zamfara, Sokoto, and Kebbi. We learned that these ones are in your plans, but we haven't seen anything in the 2019 budget. So we are hoping that by this confirmation, if the Senate, in its wisdom, do confirm you revisit, and we want to expect to see in the 2020 budget a well-articulated funding of the program that you are going to say to connect Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi axis to national railway infrastructure. If we don't see that, then we know that you and us in that corridor, we have put our own legs in the same trouser pocket. We will sit down, yes. We will sit down and really refuse to allow you to rest, until that plan and that promise that you have made, comes to fruition. Mr. President, with that, I would like to request my distinguished colleagues to allow Honorable Chibuke Amechi, in view of his legislative experience, in view of the agreement that we had, the same experience having been a former speaker for 80 years of the Rivers State House of Assembly, to take a bow and vacate the chamber. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senate Leader. I think the issue of taking a bow and go will come as soon as I make this statement. Because the nominee served as a minister of transportation and issues of interest have arisen, you are at liberty, if you have any explanation, because here is issue of Eastern Corridor that runs from the south to the northeast, from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, that if you want, if you want, distinguished colleagues, he is not under any obligation. But if he chooses to explain anything, I think it's an opportunity for him. If he chooses not to say anything, he can take a bow and go. So it's up to you. You can take a bow. Do you prefer to take a bow? No. Do you want to take a bow? Okay. No. Order, please. Honorable Chibuke Rotimi Amechi, the former speaker of Rivers State House Assembly, please take a bow. But before then, is it the view of this Senate that the nominee takes a bow and go? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Take a bow.
That was the screening of Rotimi Amechi, the immediate past Minister of Transportation. Well, the privilege accorded to people, nominees with legislative experience, was also accorded the former governor of Rivers State, because he was Speaker of Rivers State House of Assembly. Well, there were some motions that the ranking of the Senate does not extend to people who serve in the State House of Assembly. Well, that motion was read by Senator Danjuma Goje, but then the Senate President explained that it should be extended to them because they're part of Parliament as well.
I know now.
Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to appeal to all my colleagues that we can take advantage of the benefits of the information of a nominee who had occupied such an office before. He can stand here to sell himself to Nigerians. That if he returns back to that same office on the basis of the argument that we have raised here, he will be more effective and deliver more impactful leadership and service to our country. We should, that's it, Mr. President, please.
Mr. Chairman, Order 43. Mr. President, permit me to read. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, the Senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his team to make it is sought. Mr. President, I am sorry, I didn't want to put us in confusion when the nominee was there, because switch off.
Distinguished Senator George Thompson Sickle, you know, you didn't discuss anything with me regarding what you are raising. And this thing, I will advise that you withdraw that your point of order, because I will rule against you. So if you insist, because you have not given me the terms of what you are going to say, and it is my prerogative to know what you are going to say before I allow you to say it. So on the basis of this, I will disallow you from continuing with that point of order. Next time, let's discuss it so that I'm abreast with what it is going to be. So I will graciously say I take note of that your point of order.
The next nominee coming into the chamber for screening is Dr. Bonaya Onu, the immediate past Minister of Science and Technology, and the second immediate past minister to be screened by the Ninth Senate. The first, was that of Rotimi Amechi. Dr. Bonaya Onu was born on December 1st, 1951 in Uburu, Ebonyi State. He attended Izi High School, Abakaliki, Ebonyi State in 1970. College of Immaculate Conception, Enugu in 1971 and 1972.
Before us is the nominee from Ebonyi State, Dr. Bonaya Onu, the former Minister of Science and Technology. Dr. Onu, I want to welcome you on behalf of my colleagues, and we are a receipt of your CV, but you still have the opportunity to highlight on issues in the CV that you think are important for the Senate to take note, especially. And if there are anything that you think should be made known to the Senate but is not included in your CV, you are at liberty to do so. So you address the Senate before the questions and comments follow. You are welcome once again.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. President of the Senate, most distinguished senators. I feel very happy to stand before you on this very important occasion. I recall as governor of Abia State and first Nigerian to be chairman of elected governors in our country, and as national chairman of all Nigerian People's Party. At the time I became national chairman, it was the leading political party and second largest political party in the country. I worked very closely with many of you. I would like to use this opportunity to commend you especially for your contributions to nation building. Mr. President of the Senate, my CV is before you, so I don't think it is necessary for me to highlight anything because I tried to abridge it so that you can quickly look at it. So once more, I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator Kabir Ibranga.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I have my chairman of the party, former chairman, former councillor, my colleague as a governor in 1991-93, when we were booted out by the military. I just have one question, because we're supposed to ask questions, not to praise you, but you deserve the praises. A PhD holder in chemical engineering, a first-class honor in chemical engineering, BSc, and a distinction in WASC. I worked with you for 2 years as governors. We know what you can do, and you are a former minister. What would you say your best achievement while you are Minister of Science and Technology? Thank you.
No, you will respond after maybe 3 senators ask questions. Senator Aliu Magataka Daumako.
Mr. President, my dear colleagues, the nominees and also former governor of Ebonyi State. I'm sorry, Abia State. I think I shared the same question with the last speaker, but in a more elaborate, maybe in a different language. My question is, having been a minister of a key ministry for the last 4 years, what would you be remembered for as having been your best achievement in the last 4 years in this ministry? Thank you.
Senator Samegu.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, let me congratulate my brother, His Excellency Dr. Obone, on a first-class material. Your Excellency, my question is with regards to the NIGCOMSAT-1, Nigerian communication satellite, that was launched sometime, and immediately the satellite was launched with fanfare in China. It got missing in orbit. And Nigerians were worried. $340 million was used in building the satellite. And on launching, it got missing in orbit. And that satellite was supposed to provide communication, broadcasting, and broadband efficiency in our system. I want to know, even though it was done before your tenure, as a minister, Nigerians will want to know what has happened to that orbit, that satellite. Because the Minister of Science and Technology during that period, Alhaji Al-Hassan Zaku, told Nigerians that what happened was with that satellite was that the battery failed. The solar battery refused recharging, and that was why it failed. And according to him, he said that it was packed in space to avoid colliding with other satellites. Today, Nigerians want to know what has happened to that satellite. Have you recovered it? Or is it functional? Or it has been forgotten? So that the whole amount of money spent on that satellite will now become like a project that has failed again in Nigeria. So, abandoned project. So I want you to know what has happened. As a minister, in this current and the last dispensation, Nigerians want to know what has happened to that satellite. Thank you very much.
You can answer the questions.
Yes. Thank you so much. With respect to my achievements as Minister of Science and Technology, there were several achievements, but I would just like to summarize them very briefly. The first major achievement is that we were able, working with my colleagues in the ministry, we were able to increase the awareness of Nigerians of the importance of science and technology to nation building. Today, everyone can see that whether you listen to the radio or the television or read newspapers, people talk more about science and technology. We have also done something that is revolutionary for our nation, championed by the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, and that is to move Nigeria away gradually from our economy depending on resources to our economy depending on knowledge that is innovation-driven. This became very necessary, and actually this is something that should have happened at independence. And we must thank our president President Muhammadu Buhari for his interest, his commitment to making sure that this happens, because we have seen that our economy had depended on commodities, initially agricultural products, and then later crude petroleum products, that is crude oil and natural gas. And what we have seen is that all the recessions, without exception, that we have had in the country, they arise as a result of a sharp drop in the price of commodities in the international market. And this journey, which we have started now in the country, we should have started at independence, which the Chinese have done. They celebrated 40 years of it last December. South Korea did it, Japan did it, and so on, is to now help us to now ensure that our economy is knowledge-based and innovation-driven and no longer completely dependent. Because what this will do for us is that we have suddenly become a nation that imports virtually everything that we need. And this is not helping us. We have seen the adverse effect on the value of our currency, the naira. We have seen the adverse effect on the number of people who are not employed in the country. And so many adverse effects. But right now, the nation is moving in a direction to move away from a commodity-based economy to a knowledge-based, innovation-driven economy. This will take time, but I want to just give you just a very simple example. One of the agencies under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, NOTAP for short, National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, one of the mandates is to assist people to protect their intellectual property. And you do this through patents. And all over the world, you use patents to measure the creativity, the innovativeness, the inventiveness of any nation. In 2015, when I became minister, only 6 patents were obtained through NOTAP. The following year, 2016, my first full year in office, that number more than doubled from 6 to 16. Now, in 2017, 1 year later, the number in 2017 more than tripled that of 2016. We moved from 16 to 50. And by last year, the number grew to 58. So this will show you that there is increased creativity in the nation, and that our economy is gradually moving towards becoming a knowledge-based economy. Mr. President, I think these two will represent some of the very major achievements that we made, just to keep it short. The satellites that His Excellency Senator Sam Egbu talked about, yes, this was built by the Chinese, but when it had problems, the Chinese replaced that satellite at no cost, to us. Thank you.
DSP. You raise your hand. Okay. Senator James Manager.
Mr. President, seated as chair, my respected colleagues, James Manager, Delta South. Mr. Nominee, although you have made some attempts to answer the questions, particularly that question that was asked by Senator Gaya, and I think reiterated by my dear friend from Sokoto, but because you are looking at your CV, you are a first-class brain. And for 4 years, you have been involved in the science and technology subsector of this economy. Please, in specific terms, mention 2 things that Nigeria was able to make a breakthrough technologically and scientifically in the last 4 years. And if, by the benevolence of the President, and you are reappointed Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, what is your focus? How do you move it how do you move from the level we are to the next level? Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Senator Albert Basi Akpan. Are you all right?
Thank you, Mr. Capacity Senate President, my distinguished and respected colleagues. Mr. President, I want the nominee to share with us, having served in the Ministry of Science and Tech in the last 4 years, some of the challenges you faced in the last 4 years, that if by the special grace of God, which I'm praying, that you return back to that same ministry as a minister, what are those things you think you can do differently to achieve a much desired science and technology in Nigeria?
The Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and dear colleagues, the honorable nominee. Order. We've had several policies for several purposes for specific goals in this country. And in some cases, these policies have not achieved their goals. Recently, we have this National Science and Technology Innovation Policy, which has been backed by a legal framework by passing the National Science and Technology Innovation Bill. Mr. Honorable Nominee, how do you think this policy or this bill will help science and technology as a tool for national development? Thank you.
You can respond now.
Thank you, Mr. President of the Senate. The question from a distinguished Senator James Manager, yes, there were so many breakthroughs. I can mention a few, but one of the things that we wanted to achieve in the country was to promote commercialization of research findings. Because before this time, most research done in our universities, in our research centers, they ended up being used for purposes of promotion, career advancement, and they were never found in the marketplace. Yes, it is very good to have this for career advancement, but it would be better if these research findings are commercialized, that is to convert them from research findings into products. So within the time that I was Minister of Science and Technology, we achieved a lot in this area. I am happy the Deputy Leader, Distinguished Senator Borofis, he knows a number of them, but one is a biscuit that young people can use, and it will help to solve the problem of malnutrition. And this was a research done at FIRO, the Federal Institute of Industrial Research at Oshodi in Lagos, and it was commercialized by one of our leading confectionery companies in Jos. Also, just to give another example, there is a new way of managing sickle cell anemia, because we're interested in looking at diseases that are common to people who have the same color of skin with us. Because we believe that people in Europe, and Asia may not be interested in doing research in such areas. And there is a new approach. Again, this is being commercialized by one of our leading pharmaceutical companies, May and Baker. So this is a way of having a cooperation between research institutes, universities, and then industry. Because this is the only way now that we can rebuild our economy, because once you commercialize these research findings, you will be able to make money for our country, for our individuals. You will create jobs because people need to work on this. Then in the area of challenges, yes, we had a number of challenges. One of them, obviously, was funding. Which I believe that the distinguished Senate is aware of. But again, Mr. President was very generous to assist the ministry by increasing the funding, but we couldn't get up to the level we really wanted. And we all know that research is something that is capital intensive, because you have to buy state-of-the-art equipment, and you have to create enabling environment for those who do the work. But I believe that we're able to achieve a lot by effectively utilizing many the resources that we had available. With respect to the question from distinguished Senator Borofis, Professor Borofis, Deputy Majority Leader of this great Senate of our Federal Republic, the National Research and Innovation Council is a very important body. Just to give you some background information, Nigeria developed our science, technology, and innovation policy in 1986. And it took this President Muhammadu Buhari, and it took 30 years for the lead organ to drive that policy. And this is exactly why policies may not have worked in the past. The lead organ to drive the policy was this National Research and Innovation Council. And for 30 years, that council did not meet. But the president, by January 2016, because the president is the chairman of this council, and there are so many, about 15 to 18 ministers, depending on bundling or unbundling of portfolios. So you can see that it's a very important council, and is supposed to drive research and innovation in the country. So a bill, a National Research and Innovation Council, which also makes provision for a National Research and Innovation Fund, because many countries, most countries really, that are funding science and technology and innovation appropriately, they don't do that through budgetary allocations. They use extra budgetary methods. So the National Research and Innovation Fund is an extra budgetary fund that can help to fund research and innovation, not just in the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, no, but throughout the country, in our universities, in our research institutes, other research institutes, even including private sector research establishments. So definitely the National Research and Innovation Bill, when signed and implemented with the fund, will be very helpful in helping us to quicken the pace of research and innovation in our dear nation.
Senator Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. Congratulations for your nomination. You were once Minister of Science and Technology in Nigeria, and I'm sure you have traveled vast. I have seen how China have used technology to advance their economy. If you go to China today, you've seen they zone their districts into clusters, and then you'll see what technology is like. Here in Nigeria, I know that there are a lot of impediments for technology. We have patent security, whereby somebody will innovate something and before you know it, it's being used in America or elsewhere, but it's a Nigerian that devises that technology out. In Nigeria, we lack infrastructural database of our technological innovations. We have not seen it. We lack adequate research studies for people to take advantage, for companies to take advantage of it. If we have a database that will provide those information, we will be able to meet up somewhere. Now, if given another opportunity to be a minister in charge of science and technology, how and what do you think you will do new, differently from what you are doing, so that we'll be able to move at least more steps forward than where we are today? Thank you.
Senator Ibrahim Shekaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're all aware that the national policy on education has made very strong provisions to emphasize the need for the teaching of science and technology in our various institutions at various levels. I recall while the nominee was serving as a Minister of Science and Technology, you were recorded to have said at a certain function that until and unless we begin to teach science and technology in our local languages, we may not be up to that position of competing with other nations. I want to ask, what have you done to really initiate that vision as you propose at that event of teaching science and technology in our local languages? And to what extent have you collaborated with the Ministry of Education to ensure that this vision you express at that event is realized and is put into practice? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ibrahim Yahya Olurogbe.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair. Mr. Nominee, I join my colleagues to congratulate you for being re-nominated to serve Nigeria as minister. And having gone through your CV, I'm impressed to be a first-class material and chemical engineering. However, with due respect, Mr. Nominee, I want my question maybe a further probing into one of the answers you gave. I'm worried that in this country we have a lot of institutions, the universities, the research institutions, some of which are in your ministry, some are in other ministries. And we have a lot of talents in human resources that conduct research. I was privileged, specifically in the health sector, to be in some functions not long ago, where the National Institute of Mathematical Research, the current DG there, was rolling out some of the things they are doing in terms of developing drugs and developing certain technology relating to health. But from your reply, in the last 4 years that you have been ministers, I'm not able to pick specifically the cutting-edge technology, particularly in the areas of IT, which we have a lot of Nigerians with talent, that will be able to transform the research that are done or conducted by either universities or research institutions into final product. From what you said, you mentioned some few things which are what I'll call basic technology. Technology has risen in the world beyond making biscuits. These are basic things. What will you do differently? That's my question. That will make us to be able to be at the level of where technology is in the world. Thank you, Mr. President.
You can respond to the questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Senator Musa talked about database. Yes, I mentioned to you that we started something, we championed something, because the economic recovery and growth plan of our country, as a matter of fact, that plan, which is still on now, is the first development plan that has recognized science, technology, and innovation as being at the center of all economic activities in the country. So we had tremendous responsibility, and we're able to champion and working with our colleagues at the Federal Executive Council under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari. We're able to bring into existence a revolutionary executive order number 5. By that executive order, once fully implemented, Nigeria will have a knowledge economy that is innovation-driven, and in the next 30 to 50 years, nobody will imagine the level of development in our country. We'll just be like China is today in terms of advancement. And those who traveled to China 30 years ago know the implications of what I am saying. Definitely it will take a lot of time. Now, one of the agencies, I mentioned that particular agency, NOTAP, has the responsibility to develop a database, data bank for the nation. And the agency, NOTAP, has already started preliminary work. And I believe that by the time that database...
Order.
By the time that database is fully developed, it will be of great benefit to our country. His Excellency, most distinguished Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, talked about using of local indigenous languages in teaching science and technology. Yes, I drew the attention of the nation that all the countries that have done very well, because our intention is that in the future, we should be able to produce Nobel laureates in physics, in chemistry, in medicine. We already have one in literature, but we want to have Nobel laureates, Nigerians who are Nobel laureates in physics, in chemistry, and in medicine. And to do that, there are so many things that must be done. But my happiness is that we have started. And one of that is that we should endeavor to use local languages in teaching our children at the primary school level and secondary school level, science and technology, that is science and tech-related subjects, and mathematics. Because if you look at all the countries that have done so well, they use their indigenous language early enough to teach children. And when people ask me why am I saying so? And I say, look, there's a very simple explanation. When a child is young, because most children, they go to school when they are about 5 or 6, Though you have pre-schools now that people can go when they are 3. But at that tender age, if a child has to struggle with 2 things at a time, it will be easier for that child to make more progress if the child was struggling with just 1. So the first thing is that the language in the house, in the home, that the mother speaks to these children is their indigenous language. So when the child goes to school, the child has to start learning the foreign language, which you use to teach these science subjects, and then mathematics. So, but if we are able to use our indigenous local languages, we will definitely do much better. I know it's not a very simple problem to solve, but it's something that must be done, and I believe that it will be. So by the time I made that comment, I had already contacted the Honorable Minister of Education. And then the 2 ministries, Education, Science, and Technology, set up a joint committee. And that committee had been meeting, and I believe that once they are able to complete their work, because this is something that is a problem that is multidimensional, then the nation will be, we will introduce this at the highest level, and I believe very strongly that it will be adopted. Also, developing drugs. Maybe I can use this opportunity to say 1 or 2 things to Nigerians. We have made tremendous progress, though it is not proper to make this announcement that I'm trying to make now. But I think to answer this question and to show you that we achieved so much, which time can't permit me to tell you. Our Nigerian Natural Medicine Development Agency already has developed a drug using our own local herbs that
Mr. President, we have 3 more minutes, please.
Yes, that are being used to test women who have breast cancer. But, this will take some time before the certification is completed. Also, one of our agencies, Sickle, has already developed the capacity. They have gone very far in the cure for one of the very deadly diseases, epilepsy, for example. So we are working very hard, and we're getting good results. But with drugs, you don't make these announcements when they are early. You have to wait until they pass through. It's normally a very long journey. The pharmacists here will understand this. It's normally a very long process to pass through all the certifications before really you can say so. But we have done very well in these areas. In the area of information technology, we are working, and I want to also inform you that we had proposals before the Federal Executive Council. It's just that it could not be taken before we left, and whomsoever takes over will follow through on the establishment of 2 new agencies. And then we passed this through our National Research and Innovation Council. So the National Research and Innovation Council had already given approval. So it's now it will be before the Federal Executive Council and then Mr. President to give final approval so that we can have 2 agencies that will help us to intensify study in artificial intelligence and also in robotics. Because we believe that once we are able to do well in these areas, the effect will be very, very beneficial in all areas of our research and innovation. Thank you.
Well, we have the Deputy Minority Leader Senator Ross Oko, Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, Senator Adama Lero. In that order. Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President sitting in as chair. Distinguished colleagues, Chief Dr. Ogbonnaya Ono, you caught the image of an individual with a deep-seated sense of humility. And I'm not saying this to massage your ego, because I don't have the trait in my character, by the way. And you come from the southeast. You come from the southeast, a region that we think by power equation deserves some sympathy. And you fall into the few that genuinely could be seen as potential leaders in the future. I want to ask you, are you concerned about the huge security challenge in the country now? And if you are concerned, can you tell this Senate whether you've been able, as an advisor and as a member of the Federal Executive Council for the past 4 years, whether you've been able to advise Mr. President? Because we are a nation that is filled with sycophants. A lot of people, when they see power, it's difficult to speak to power. Have you been able to advise that this insecurity is threatening our corporate existence? I'm saying this because another question may come. Suppose you are president, what differently will you do to confront this insecurity? Thank you.
Senator Rosoko, ask your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues. From time to time, Mr. Nominee, we have seen on national television young inventors displaying their inventions. What have you done with these young inventors? Do you have a policy that nurtures them to grow into these inventions and other inventions? Had you done so in the past? And if you hadn't done so, what would be your policy if you were to go back to that ministry to nurture these young inventors, some of whom have done very well in the inventions that we saw on television? Have we gone beyond exhibiting those inventions, or have we done anything to nurture them? Is there a national policy? And if there is none, is there anything that can be done to evolve a national policy? Because that is the only way we can continue to grow strong in technology and science. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. My good friend and brother, former governor of Abuja State, I have a simple question for you. And it is related to application of science to agriculture. In particular, I want to talk about biotech engineering. It is a well-known fact that most countries that develop their agriculture, applied science and technology, boost agricultural production. In this country, there is a lot of fears and apprehensions about biotech engineering. How do you allay the fears and apprehensions of Nigerians in embarking on biotechnology to boost agricultural production in Nigeria? Countries that have developed their agriculture, like India, China, and Brazil, have done so through biotech engineering. Why can't Nigeria do the same? As an eminent scientist from one of the best universities in the world, Berkeley University, a PhD holder,
What can you advise the federal government of Nigeria to apply science and technology to boost agricultural production? Thank you.
Senator Abdul Fattah Bari.
Thank you, Mr. President. Buhari Abdul Fattah Oyonot. Mr. Nominee, when you were making your contribution or your response earlier, you made mention of South Korea, how they developed their country with science and tech. South Korea achieved that by giving 10% of all their students every year a startup. In the last 4 years or 3 years or so, how many startups do you have in science and tech in your ministry? 2, I saw you on TV sometime early last year when a guy developed an aeroplane in Delta State. You showcase it. What has happened to that? I was even expecting the manager of the Senate, whenever he's coming to Abuja, he will just enter that aircraft to Abuja. Up to now, we have not seen what we'll be able to do with that young, talented guy. So thank you, Mr. President.
You can respond to the questions, please.
Okay. Thank you so much, the most distinguished Deputy Minority Leader. Yes, there is no country that does not have security problems. The most important thing is once the leadership of a nation has the will to ensure that the security problems are handled in a way to ensure that we secure our citizens and their property, which is really the most important responsibility for any government anywhere in the world. And our president, President Muhammadu Buhari, has worked very hard and is working very hard and has given greater commitment. Even the speech that he made on June 12th is further assured Nigerians that all these security challenges, he will continue to address them. And the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology is also working to assist in finding solutions to some of the security problems that we have in the country. With respect to young inventors, this is a part of our achievement, but with this limited time, we can't say so much. But we have a program which we have been carrying out every year. And that program is, we go to all the 774 local government areas in the country, and we are walking through the chairman of the local government area. They will conduct examinations in physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics. And they bring up somebody they consider to be the brightest, the person who has the greatest potential to be a young scientist. Now, at the state level, working with our governors and the ministries of science and technology, where we have one. In some cases, if we don't have, and one ministry will play that role for us. All the persons who have come first in the various local government areas, if we take a state with, let's say, maybe 17 local government areas, the 17 of them will now come to the state capital and then compete again in these subjects. And the best will now be taken. Now, we will invite the best from the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. So there will be 37 of them that will come to Abuja and compete. So we've been doing this, and this is to help us to encourage, young people to go into science. And we did this for the past 3.5 years that I served as minister. And Mr. President was so kind in the past 2 years to grant scholarship to the first three, first, second, third. We normally give them cash and then some other prizes, but the president was so kind to now give them scholarship that they will, if they want to study up to PhD, that is Doctor of Philosophy level, in any Nigerian university, provided it's in any field of science and technology. This has been done for the past 2 years. So, and we have also, through our Science, Technology, and Innovation Expo, which I believe the most distinguished Senator Borofis, Professor Borofis, who is the deputy majority leader of this great Senate, who served as the chairman for the Committee on Science and Technology, will tell you, we did the first two in Abuja here at the Eagle Square. And then for this year, the third one, we said, okay, we're going to be moving around the country. So we picked the Southeast for a start, and we did that at the Michael Okpara Square in Enugu. And each of these used to be a 1 week program, and Nigerians were very excited about them. I believe some of you may have seen. I know you are so busy, but you may have seen some of this in the news, or even gone there, because there we try to have all the inventors, innovators, investors. There should be interaction. The purpose really is to promote commercialization. But the first thing is that people must know what you have done. If people don't know what is available, how can they promote it? How can they commercialize it? So we've done this, and it's been very useful, exceptionally, useful. And maybe I can just go quickly to the last question on the aircraft in Delta. That aircraft, as a matter of fact, I was told by someone, I didn't even see it, that it was Channel Television that relayed a young scientist who had a drone. So I now asked my office to go and make contact with Channel Television and locate that person. So we were able to locate the person, and we invited him, to Abuja. And the man was so happy, he said so. It wasn't even that he contacted, it's just the interest, the passion that we have, for development of science and technology in our day. Because we know that there is no other way we can become truly great without applying science and technology and innovation to our nation building. And we encouraged that inventor the way we have also encouraged, because there's another program whereby we set up a committee that goes around, and this is on an annual basis, goes around all our states in the various geopolitical zones, and finds out the major inventions that we have in the country. And they write report on this, and the best are selected for us, to encourage. And we normally give them cash grants where that is, necessary. Now, with South Korea, yes, startups, in the Ministry of Science and Technology, yes, we have this program, and that is what I just mentioned now. When there are two angles to it. First is that many people don't recognize that many of the agencies, indeed, as a matter of fact, almost all the agencies under the Federal Ministry of Science, under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, they encourage the growth of micro and small-scale industries. And what happens is that when you now have a new technology, this technology, the intellectual property will be protected, through a patent, and then we will now come and train people, and we encourage them. That's the startup. We have classical examples of success stories in this. I was in Enugu just, I believe, in May this year, where a very big facility, as a result of this type of startup, that started small, but has now grown to, almost between medium and a large-scale industry. And there are classical examples of that all over the country. So we are making progress. The only thing is that it takes time for this progress, for many people to embrace them. Now, the last question by His Excellency, Most Distinguished Senator Aliero. Yes, most people will tell you that 90 to 95% of agriculture is science and technology. Many people think it's only maybe harvesting, maybe planting by using tractors and so on. No, that is not. Every process, even in selecting the seed, yes, it's science and technology. And many of our agencies have been assisting in ensuring that we have food security in the country. Because it is very important as a nation that we must be able to feed ourselves. There is no other way we can make it if we are unable to feed ourselves as a nation. And we are making contributions in this direction. Not only, I can give you a classical example. We found out that that our nation, one reason that the industrialization process in the country has not done as well as it should be is that we did not do what many other countries did. Because many other countries started with, with leather and then textile. Because these are low technology areas that if you have large population and you have the workforce, is not that expensive, you can do very well in them. So we now decided to solve those problems. And we picked leather and also looked at cotton, that our farmers ran away from planting cotton because there is a particular insect that attacks the cotton. So one of our agencies, working with others, NABDA, National...
Honorable nominee, I think you need to round up.
Okay, yes. Sorry. No, I thought they need to have this information. But thank you so much. So NABDA developed this cotton, B2 cotton, that now has increased considerably the yield of our farmers and all that. And we believe that this will help farmers to go into agriculture. And many of our agencies are working in the area of processing. So I thank you so much, Mr. President of the Senate.
Well, distinguished colleagues, I want to really plead with us. Everyone would like to ask a question, but we still have many more nominees to go. So those who have been able to ask questions now or before, I think it will be the privilege of those who have not asked any questions when the next set of ministerial nominees come in. So is it the view of this Senate that the nominee takes a bow and go? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow.
That was the screening of Dr. Obonaya Ono, ministerial nominee from Ebonyi State. Well, the senators took him around the achievements and activities of the Minister of Science and Technology from 2015 to date. And he was able to reel out some of the achievements. And then particularly they demanded to know what happened to the Nigerian satellite that got missing before his tenure. But he explained that the Chinese government has replaced the satellite at no cost to Nigeria. He also explained that The federal government, by the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari, has policies of encouraging Nigerian young innovators, especially in cash and scholarships and training.
See my crown. This one I take it down. Mamura. Yeah, that's what I'm talking Mamura. Mamura.
The next nominee to be screened is Senator Adeleke Mamora from Lagos State. He obtained his Bachelor of Health Science, Bachelor of Medicine, and Bachelor of Surgery from the University of Ife, and he became a health practitioner. He was the senator for the Lagos East Federal Constituency.
Senator Mamora, around. Where is the minority leader? No, you know, he keeps reminding us of donation. So, we are waiting for you, minority leader. Distinguished colleagues, Senator Mamora is a nominee from Lagos, Lagos State. Distinguished Mamora was a one-time principal officer of the Senate. On behalf of our colleagues, I want to welcome you to where you held sway for many years. I want to also request you to give us any additional information about yourself that you think you need to highlight as provided in your CV or indeed omitted. But it's also an opportunity for you to say whatever you want to say to your colleagues. Once again, you are welcome. You can address the Senate.
Mr. President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished Senator Ahmed Lawan, distinguished Deputy Senate President of the Senate, Senator Omagege, principal officers of the Senate, distinguished senators, I am profoundly honored to stand before you this afternoon through the grace of God and the benevolence of President Muhammadu Buhari.
I'm a medical practitioner by profession and a politician by vocation. You will have seen in my CV what it's been like so far about me. But naturally and expectedly, stepping into these chambers this afternoon, I had a feeling of nostalgia, having been privileged to sojourn in these hallowed chambers for 8 years. Of course, coming from the background of the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, and while in the Senate here, I was also privileged to be a member of the ECOWAS Parliament. While here, through the grace of God, I was able to make my modest contributions to nation building of our dear country. And on leaving the Senate in 2011, I was privileged to have been appointed by our president, then retired General Muhammadu Buhari, as the Deputy Director General of the campaign, presidential campaign in 2015. And in 2019, I was also privileged to have been returned in the same capacity. And currently, I serve as the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of the National Inland Waterways Authority. I want to thank Mr. President for nominating me as a candidate for the office of the Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'm happy, I'm grateful to all of you for the opportunity to stand before you this afternoon. I think I will stop there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, I just want to remind us on the policy we have set for ourselves. And that policy is when a nominee was a member of this chamber, he or she gets the privilege of belonging to this chamber and this family. And therefore, we normally ask the two leaders to talk on our behalf. And I'll go ahead to invite the Senate Minority Leader to make his remarks, and then the Senate Leader wraps it up. Senate Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as the chair. Eni Abaribe, Abia South. Let's say that our own Mamo is here with us. And we're very glad that finally they have recognized who you are. We know what you went through. You sat on this seat and did very well. And they used local materials to localize you. You didn't give up.
Thank you. Minority Leader, Minority Leader, you are expected to speak on behalf of the Senate. I will therefore advise I will therefore advise that you strictly, very strictly adhere to that norm. Thank you. You may continue.
You don't need to openly show your hand.
Thank you, Mr. President. I may have misspoke. All I wanted to say was that local considerations draft national considerations.
Very correct. Very correct. Very correct. Very correct. Very correct.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator,
Good thinking, good product.
Point of order, Senator Adetumbi.
Mr. President,
Go to your seat.
Mr. President, I stand on order 53-4.
53-4.
A senator must confine his observations to the subject under discussion.
Yes.
I may not introduce matter irrelevant thereunto.
Down in the wall.
Mr. President, the senator on the floor should restrict himself to the subject under discussion.
Well guided.
No, I have to rule. Minority Leader, please confine yourself to the matter under discussion. Senator Olubimi Adetumbi, you are perfectly in order, and your order is sustained.
Senator Mamora is our very good friend and is my neighbor. And I can say this for him. We know of a situation where senators left here were offered positions that a senator shouldn't take, and they took. But Senator Mamora was offered position and he rejected it because he looked at each and every one of us and said, if I take that position, it will demean this Senate. Exactly. So this Senate thanks you for keeping to that. And therefore, I have absolutely, on behalf of the minority,
Yes.
no, on behalf of the minority, sir, to say that on behalf of this Senate, we see you as an ambassador to the villa, for which you will be able to school those who do not understand the interaction that is needed between the White House over here and the villa over there. We know you will do that because you have been a quintessential legislator in this chamber.
Made by God.
And we thank you and we wish you well. And we have, on behalf of all of us, to say that you can now bow and go, and congratulations.
Senate Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I would like to, first of all, extend my gratitude to my colleague, Senator Abadibe, for his very sharp wits and his hilarious jibes, for which this chamber, has been very hilarious and entertaining, to this chamber. But I think I think let's go back to issues of substance and decorum. On behalf of the entire membership of this Senate, I wish to recognize a man of excellence that is standing before us. Somebody who has accumulated a lot of knowledge and experience, both in professional and political fields. Dr. Mwamura is a medical doctor, but he's a person who has performed excellently in the political space. Both, I heard his name when he was Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, from where he graduated to the Senate and spent 2 terms in the Senate and rendered a lot of service to the Senate before some of us even thought we would even graduate and come to this highly respected institution. Senator Mwamura, we are very grateful. And this Senate would not have been what it is without the enormous work that you people have done from 2003 through to 2011. Particularly, I will recall, for some of us who were at that time in the Federal Civil Service, we recall the kind of fights that you people have conducted to give the National Assembly the kind of independence and the kind of recognition that all of us are enjoying today. Thanks to the tenacity and the presence of mind and the sense of purpose that have led us to this point, that now we have a Senate, that now we are saying, look, the Senate has now come to stay, the National Assembly has now come to stay, we are a well-recognized institution. Now we are talking about what value can we add to the rest of Nigeria. We think we have come to stay, and every institution we have been institutionalized. We thank to a lot of work and a lot of the contributions that people like you have made, to the stature and the presence of the National Assembly. You can look at his CV, you can see the membership of committees that he served, both within the Senate and also in interparliamentary in Africa and around the world. With this record of excellence, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I will recommend and urge our distinguished members to please commend Senator Mwamura to bow and depart from this channel. I so recommend. The Lagos caucus, is unanimous, in support of this particular nomination. I so recommend, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senate Leader and the Minority Leader. The distinguished colleagues, I cannot, resist the temptation to say something about Senator Mwamura. Senator Mwamura has been one of those senators who were here and who, after they left this chamber, continued to be very good ambassadors of the National Assembly. We have seen him in action, explaining what the National Assembly and the Parliament is. And that is one issue that we have to continue to do because we are not properly understood. So I will urge you on behalf of my colleagues that you continue with this very good and rewarding ambassadorial role that we have been doing since we left in 2011. For us, when we came here in 2007, we were very young, possibly even hot-headed. We learned a lot from you. You have contributed immensely in our induction programs for new members of the National Assembly. Now you have another big role to play. In the Federal Executive Council, not many of the fake members would have legislative experience. And those who don't have that experience, many of them don't understand what we are supposed to do or how we are supposed to operate and work with them. So we'll urge you to continue with this ambassadorial role in the Federal Executive Council, that we are prepared, we are primed, we are set to work together with the executive for the interest of this country, and we deserve every possible mutual respect so that we are able to work in such a fashion that this country will be taken to the next level. Is this the view of the Senate, that he takes a bow and go? Distinguished Senator Mamora, you can take a bow. With those in favor that he takes a bow and leave, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow and go. Distinguished senators, we have the nominee representing Ogun State, Mr. Olalekan Adegbite. His CV has been distributed. Do we have the CV? Okay. So Mr. Adegbite, I want to take the opportunity to welcome you to the Senate chambers and to also request you to tell us anything that you need to highlight in your CV or out of it that you think is going to be helpful for the Senate to decide on the confirmation. Once again, you are welcome, and you can now address the Senate.
Mr. Senate President, distinguished senators, my name is Olamilekon Adegbite. I was born and raised in Ibadan. I was privileged to attend the famous Government College Ibadan, where characters are molded. The motto of the school is very hard today. It says, learning to serve. After leaving Government College Ibadan, I wanted to study architecture. And at that time, you needed to have your A-levels before you could go to the university. So I went to the then Ogun State Polytechnic in Abeokuta for my A-levels. That was from 1971 to 1981. Then we had a two-tier examination, the Cambridge examination and the WAEC examination. I came out of Ogun State Polytechnic and went to the University of Lagos School of Architecture. I was fortunate early as a student to be involved in practical work, even within the university. There was a very popular photographic studio at the university then. I'm not sure whether it's still there. It's called Studio The Best. I struck a friendship with a man that owned the place. So when it came to time to build a new studio within the university premises, particularly in front of Mariri Hall, it chose me to design and build, and I think I was in second year architecture then. It was a good way to hone my skill, and I did it successfully. So he commissioned a second one at the medical campus of Unilag, which is Idiaba. I also designed and built that as well. This is how I started the foray from architecture into construction. I was also opportuned to work as a student with a firm, and I was saddled with responsibility of some buildings. Upon graduation from the university, I served with that one of the top architectural firms in Nigeria of that time. Unfortunately, the proprietor is late, Chief Lai Balogun, blessed memory, at Modular Group. Modular Group gave me an exceptional opportunity, even for somebody as young as myself in the profession. This was so because the principal at that time was involved in politics. That was the politics of SDP and NRC. So I was opportuned to take senior positions early and to take decisions. One of the landmark projects that I worked on, standing on the shoulder of people who had come to Modular before me, was the Union Bank headquarters in Marina. And at that time, it was a thing of pride. It was the tallest building in Nigeria in concept, 30-story Union Bank buildings in Marina with 3 basement floors. And it's on record that the principal trusted me enough to append my signature along with his own in the post-contract agreement that was signed with the bank. These, among many other projects that are handled at Modular Group. In 1992, having become a professional architect, I've obtained my license from ACON, that's the Architect Association Council of Nigeria. I decided to venture into my own practice. And this I started May 2nd, 1992. I must say this, because the company was so good to me, Modular Group, instead of the traditional 1 month notice that was required of me, I gave a 3 months notice, which was in January, so I left in May. I started practice in 92, and like any young practice, it was a bit rough. I would travel the length and breadth of this country looking for work. But thank God, along the line, I started working for the oil industry, particularly the National Oil, as it was called then. I did a lot of jobs for them, civil works, building works, and all that. This, of course, contributed to owning my skills. Furthermore, I started working for the banking industry as well. And these took me across parts of the country. I could recall particularly, I went to do a job at Bonny Island. Bonny Island, of course, is only accessible by boat. And the logistics, as challenging as it was also very educative. And of course, got me to know other parts of Nigeria. But I must say this, that everything I'd done in the private sector up until 2011 was just preparatory to serving in public office. In 2011, I was privileged to be invited to come and serve the people of Ogun State as Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure. And this opened a new vista in experience, interpersonal relations, dealing with the public, which is all different gamuts coming from the private sector. The governor had a vision which was primarily anchored on infrastructure. And thank God we were able, in 8 years, we were able to deliver on the governor's vision, spearheaded by the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. What this brought about and taught us is the fact that infrastructure is a panacea to most of the problems that we have in the society. One thing I realized, construction work, whether civil or building, is a large employer of labor, skilled and unskilled. At a point in time, on different sites within Ogun State, we gave employment to over 30,000 people that were earning their daily living from our project sites. I'm talking just about infrastructure projects, not talk of other things. Also, this made us to realize the fact that infrastructure played a lot of role in other sectors. The infrastructure, of course, deepened our IGR base, helped the health infrastructure as well, helped with education and so many things. But most importantly, it was a poverty alleviation mechanism because a lot of people got employed and made their living. I may have to stop short there. I'll take questions and I may be able to explain further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting chair, my distinguished colleagues. Congratulations, nominee.
Thank you, sir.
As we say in Nigeria, policies, competent persons, it's not our problem. It is implementation that is always the issue. Now, I'll go further to say that implementation is always an issue because of two key reasons. One, corruption. Two, lack of proper monitoring and evaluation of both the programs, the projects, and indeed the staff, and in fact, even the ministers themselves. So, for corruption, we all know it's a normal cliche, we all talk about it. But I ask you, as you are aware, I believe you drive a car. The major tool for a driver in a car is a dashboard that is easily available for you to see so that you can monitor your fuel level, your speed, and so on. What is your strategic plan if you are confirmed to ensure that you have a dashboard? Because as you sit in your office, a lot will be happening down, in your ministry, down to the last point. And we'll sit here and appropriate billions of Nigerian people's money. How are you going to make sure that Nigerian people's money works for them, it gets to the right place at every time? Thank you.
Senator Godia Okashiki.
Mr. Chairman, my very distinguished colleagues, Okashiki Godia is my name, representing Nasarawa North Central District. Mr. Nominee, as an experienced architect with wide experience spanning over 30 years in private sector, I want to believe you will agree with me with the participation of private investment is key to the development of public infrastructure in Nigeria. Now, a nominee, if eventually cleared and sworn in as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what do you think, or which ways, ideas do you intend to help government, or government need to do more in harnessing the private sector resources to contribute much to the national development of this country? Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Rochas Okorocha.
Mr. Senate President. Nominee, at this very crucial time of our nation's economic development, Nigerians are looking for ministers who can think outside the box and who can make a difference, a visible difference. We are used to ministers complaining of funding, and so every minister on quote is one that depends with cup in hand begging for budgetary allocation. There have been so much hue and cry since the creation of this nation for infrastructural development. My question to you, nominee, would you say that Nigeria infrastructure development is okay at this moment? And if it's not, in the negative, what is responsible? And what difference will you make from past ministers who handled issues of infrastructure development if you become a minister, in making sure that Nigeria will sing a new song in the case of infrastructure development? That's my number one question. Once you are appointed a minister, you have assumed the responsibility of a leader. Leadership counts. I want you, in simple sentence, can you tell this red chamber what do you think is the problem of Nigeria? Mr. Senate President, Mr. Senate President, I want to request of you, Mr. Senate President, that any nominee that walks in here, the first question you should ask, not us, is that what can you do with your ministry to guarantee happiness to the people of Nigeria?
Chairman Committee on Happiness. You have given him the answer. That's Expo now.
Which one?
We tell you that it's happening.
Senator Kabir Barkia.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Engineer Kabir Barkia, representing Katsina Central. Mr. Nominee, you are an architect and also a former commissioner, works and infrastructure. So my question just goes to, of recent, we are having serious problems of building collapsing in almost all parts of this country. So when you finally succeeded and become a minister, how are you going to tackle this menace we are experiencing? Thank you very much.
You can respond to the questions, please.
Thank you, sir. I can answer the question also. Thank you, sir. I think the first question is very straightforward. That is ensuring that Nigerian people's money work for them. The problem in Nigeria has never been lack of laws or policies or guidelines. Is actually sticking to them. They are laid down principles for procurement. And when this is followed and done transparently, you can get the best value for the money that is spent. This is the best way to ensure that whatever the money is meant for is achieved. And I think that's the best way to make sure that Nigerians get the benefit of the money for the project that is meant for. The next question is getting the private sector involved. I must say this, that for private sector to work in Nigeria, especially with the public office, we need to build confidence. Without apportioning blame, there have been some recent incidences that eroded confidence of the private sector, where there's lack of carryover or continuity from one administration to the other. Government enters into partnership with someone, and maybe the administration goes, another comes in, and that agreement is not properly honored. Of course, this makes investors to be wary. So it's very important for government to honor its obligations, because there's a lot of money in the private sector. Actually, there's a lot of money outside the banking sector, in the informal sector, which of course CBN acknowledges. We can harness this if you can get the confidence of our people and they know that they will make their money back. We've done it successfully in Ogun State, and I think we can replicate it at the federal level. The next question is similar to that. Say whether the policy is working or not. I must say that things are getting better. Projects that are being done before are being continued rather than being abandoned. There's no point saying that we must start new projects with every new administration when there are ones that are uncompleted by the former ones. If you have continuity, then it will augur well and better for the country. But most importantly, you ask what I would do if I had opportunity anywhere. One thing I've found that, as I say, it also leads to the lack of funding. Instead of spreading ourselves thin, you know, we have X amount and we want to spread it over 100 projects. Balancing the geopolitical situation in Nigeria, we can concentrate on a few things so that we balance it out, but at the same time, we embark on projects that we can finish within a fixed time. I could give an easy example. When I became commissioner in Ogun State in 2011, there was a project that was awarded by the federal government, the road from Ibadan to Abeokuta via Akpata, Odeda. The project was awarded in 2010. As we speak, that project is yet to take off the ground. It's funding problem. But the contract subsists in the ministry. That means the contract is still on. So rather than spread ourselves thin, if we could pick projects strategically to balance the geopolitical equation and say, look, within 4 years, we can finish this, we can finish this, those are laudable achievements instead of spreading ourselves thin. I think that's the way out, and we'll get value for our money that way. Well, leadership. Leadership is not so much a problem in this country. Everybody is a leader in his own right, whether in our homes, on the streets. And what we need to ask ourselves, am I doing it right, even when other people are not there? The spirit of shortcut, we need to eschew it, take it out of our national life. If people are not looking, or because I'm privileged, rather than go and make a U-turn 300 meters down the line, I want to quickly turn left and join the other lane. These are things that we need to. So it's not so much leadership in one place. It's the leaders in all of us. Where we find ourselves, are we doing it right? Even when people are not seeing us. And I think that's what leadership is all about. And lastly, I think the question is about building collapse in Nigeria. It's symptomatic of the society, building collapse. You will find out in most cases, the buildings that collapse all over this country do not have involvement of professionals. I would say out of, I don't know, people cutting corners. Oftentimes, people will come to you, make a design for me, you do the design, you do the stuff. They want to use the professional so they get the approvals. Thereafter, they abandon the professional to go and do. And where concrete is the easiest to abuse because it's plastic. It's not something that you load today and it damages today. It flows. So the deformation is slow. At times it takes years. So when you do a defective project, say, that one we didn't use any professional and it's staying. It encourages and reinforces such people to go and do another one. Of course, when it reaches a critical point, the building will collapse. So that is the problem. We need to go back, and I think the professional bodies are working on this. I know of the Nigerian Institute of Architects. They're working with all other bodies, the engineers, the builders, to form a code such that even during construction, the states, the planning regulators will go around and ensure that the professionals that signed the drawings, that got the approval, are involved. If they are not, such projects should be altered automatically. If you do this, it will reduce the effect of building collapses in Nigeria. Thank you.
Senators Theodore Oji, Lawrence Rujagpo, and Senator Ama Michael Nachi. In that order, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Theodore Oji. I represent Abia Central. Mr. Potential Minister, you are welcome. And my question is this. If you go into the Executive Council and the President, and this question is without prejudice to your deployment or posting, and the President gives every minister a task, and that task is to suggest one way that these are our girls, the Chibok girls, that are still held hostage, can be brought back. What will be your own suggestion? Number two, see, the problem we are having with the executive at times in terms of budget, which is our main function, is late submission of proposals from ministries. If you are posted to a ministry and you have that problem, what will be your solution? Thank you.
Mr. President of the Senate, sitting as chair, I am Lawrence Abuja, representing the productive people of Bayelsa West Central District. I want to join my colleagues to congratulate you on your nomination. Fortunately, we share some commonalities. I am also just the immediate past Commissioner for Works, Bayelsa State and Infrastructure. So,
thank you.
Unfortunately, I may not have had the opportunity of crossing ourselves because most of the times I don't attend the National Council on Works for obvious reasons. Because I believe that some of these things need to be left with the state to do. And I don't think that there's need for us to have that kind of conference to discuss. But anyway, but that is not the subject matter for here now. Now, the question is, we have housing deficit in this country. If you are confirmed as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what will you do differently to ensure that we bridge this gap of housing deficit? I'm aware that we had the Shagari housing scheme in those days, and some of those buildings are still within Port Harcourt, which was our former state where we came out from, Bayelsa State. What will you do to ensure that this issue of housing deficit, because the problem of housing is not just a matter of, we must not look for the 3-bedroom flats, the duplexes for people to stay in. So what will you do to ensure that we reduce this issue of housing deficit in this country? My second question is general. We have just been told that the federal government has banned the eating of leather, pomo. I will have asked the Minister of Science and Tech, but you are also a minister, and you can be assigned to any portfolio because you have the competencies of being assigned. What do you think we need to do to take forward this policy so that the derivatives we need to derive economically and otherwise from the ban on eating of pomo, because those who eat the pomo derive benefits, but now I want to deprive them of that benefit. How do we translate this benefit to economic benefit to the country? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Michael Nachi.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. My distinguished architect, when I see fellow professionals in the building industry, I'm always happy. I've looked at your CV and your attached documents, but it does appear, I don't know if it is right for me to say it is an oversight that since you registered with ACON in 1998 and the Institute of Architects in 1992, I have not seen your practice license, and you've been handling the big jobs. Of course, you know we frown at that. Secondly, assuming tomorrow you are assigned to Ministry of Works, and let me borrow Professor Jerry Ghana's speech. If you're architect, you architect well. If you're engineer, you engineer well. If you're a quantity surveyor, quantify well. Now, in the Ministry of Works, per se, which you know, let us not hide the fact that based on what I've said, corruption is deep there because those who don't know anything anyway claims to know it, and government is wasting a lot of billions due to that aspect of it, which of course you know where I'm going. Now, how do you intend to help this government that is preaching of corruption every day to overcome this professional corruption? Because some particular profession in Ministry of Works claims that they are there. Whereas you know, a business administrator spends the money. He still hires accountant to audit his spendings. But in our own construction industry, it is not there. So how do you intend to put correction or put end to these things we have been battling? Thank you. Sorry.
You can respond to the questions.
Thank you, sir. The first question this round is on Chibok girls. I must first admit my lack of competence in such matters. But from the layman's point of view, I think technology is so advanced that could help us, because even on Google Map, there's something you call street level mapping. You could stay in your room and be looking at the streets of America or UK or anywhere in Europe. I know there's some military technology that's been deployed in warfare, maybe by people who are more advanced than us. If we could seek their help, we could begin to locate where these people are without jeopardizing lives. We could now evolve a strategy. The first thing is to locate where they are. Then we could evolve a strategy on how to release these people. It could be carrot and stick, some incentives. I don't think I can go further than that. The military experts would know. Late proposal of budgets. I can't say much about what has been happening, but I say that from my experience in 8 years, working in Ogun State. In fact, for our budget, we have a particular date. It's second Tuesday in November. Whatever date it is, you must present budget to the House. And we were able to do this for 8 years. Second Tuesday in November, the budget is presented. And before the year ends, oftentimes, the governor will sign the budget on 31st of December. But it gives the legislative arm about 7 to 8 weeks to consider the budget. We could have something like this in place at the federal level, so that Mr. President picks a particular date and everybody works towards that. Like, look, I'm going to present my budget every year, first Tuesday in November every year, second Tuesday, everybody works towards that. So, because it's the same amount of work that you do when you start and finish, that's also you're going to do. So if you know you're working towards a particular date, everything will have happened before that November date. We did it successfully in Ogun State for 8 years. And I think It's something that can be borrowed at the federal level. Housing deficits and bridging the gap. You see, housing itself is a social problem. And that's the first thing that we need to get right in this country. Sorry to say, maybe there are about over 100 senators here. The desire for everybody will be different. That's why everybody talks to the architects. What we tend to do when we are doing mass housing is to do one size fits all. And that's why it has not worked. Just like the distinguished senator said, there are some houses that we inherited as administration. Despite the deficit, people don't have, they are abandoned, nobody wants to live there. Because people were not consulted before the houses were built. Location, type of houses, and all that. So, what I was taught in the university for housing, before you even embark on any housing at all, you must have something like a questionnaire to the intended targets. So it has to be localized. If I'm going to build houses maybe in Lagos, I'll design my questionnaire for the people around there. If I'm going to build in my village, maybe somewhere like that, I'm going to design the questionnaire for those people. You need to know what people want and how they want it. This is the only way to solve the housing problem, rather than build one size fits all that nobody wants to occupy. You say ban on pomo and leather products. I think it's a good thing to ban pomo because we import a lot of leather products in Nigeria, which, with the amount of cattle that we consume on a daily basis all over the nation, there's plenty of leather products that can come out of that. And practice the same make perfect. If we start the leather works, so it has to be incentives. The tendency is that because the pomo is cheaper, it's for the lower class people. So maybe some incentives, something to take them off pomo, maybe provide cheaper fish or something, so that the hides of the cattle could be harvested from the abattoir and turned to leather. My professional colleague, you mentioned practice license. Of course, I even served on the board of ACON for 3 years. So I do have a practice license. I don't think it was important to put there, but I've been practicing since 1992, and I do have a practice license. Thank you. Corruption. I cannot say that because that's a pointed accusation at the ministry and the people there. What I can say is that because you mentioned administrator, accountant, and all that, there's peculiarity, especially in the civil construction industry.
Mr. President, we have 5 more minutes, please.
Okay, sorry.
5 more minutes.
I'm trying to answer the question, sir. Well, when you want to do bill of quantities for road, for instance, you can't give it to a quantity surveyor. It's called BEME, Bill of Engineering, Measurement, and Evaluation. It has to be done by engineers. Maybe that is why you think that means it's a bit opaque. You know, there are some peculiarities with it. I can't talk further about it because I don't know when you say they're corrupt. Thank you.
Is that the general view? Okay. Distinguished colleagues, is it the view of the Senate that he takes a bow and go? Those in favor that he takes a bow and go say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Order.
Now the next nominee that will be screened by the Senate is the immediate past Minister of Education, Adamu. Well, the nominee is a Nigerian accountant, a writer, a former journalist, and a former Minister of Education who was appointed minister by President Muhammadu Buhari on November 2015.
Malam Adamu, the former Minister of Education. Malam, on behalf of my colleagues, I want to welcome you to the Senate chambers.
Thank you, sir.
We already have your CV, and I will urge you to highlight those issues that you feel very strongly about, that this Senate needs to take note of, and those things that we think are important but are not in the CV for the benefit of the Senate in this process of screening and eventual confirmation. So you are invited to address the Senate.
Thank you very much. Distinguished Senate President, distinguished Deputy Senate President, distinguished senators, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, sir, for inviting me, but I think I made the CV quite short, noting only the very important facts. So I'm quite happy as it is, sir. I don't have anything to add.
Senator Uche Lillian Ekunife.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Uche Lillian Ekunife. Mr. President, I represent Anambra Central. I'm from Anambra State. First of all, let me congratulate the Minister for the nomination by Mr. President. Having been the Minister of Education for the past 4 years, I would like to ask you, can you just tell the Senate what is the assessment in the state of public primary schools in Nigeria? If you had to assess
State of
the public primary school in Nigeria, how do you assess that in terms of your performance and your achievement for the past 4 years? My second question is this. What specific steps have you taken?
What?
Specific steps, actions,
yes,
have you taken or you intend to take to make sure that the academic curriculum in our primary schools, especially computer education, is in line with global academic standards? These are the two questions. Thank you.
Senator Samegu.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to congratulate the minister, my colleague, before, for being re-nominated by Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
It shows you have done well. But Mr. Minister, I have just 2 short questions. You know that open universities all over the world is used as a means of accelerating or increasing tertiary education because of the inability of the conventional university admit all that would want to enter the university. What do you think should be done by the NUC to improve on the curriculum, the conditions that will enhance the quality of open universities, considering their limitations now? The second question is a very short one. The crave by politicians.
Grave?
I said the crave now.
Okay, yes.
By politicians to ensure that appointment of just vice chancellors of universities located in their area reflects their geographical area is stopped. Because I know that federal universities all over universities all over the world are international institutions. Vice chancellor can be appointed from anywhere. That's how it used to be before. But now, university in Bauchi will make sure that somebody from Bauchi becomes the vice chancellor. University in Owerri will make sure that Owerri man or people from the south becomes a vice chancellor. That has become very current now, and that is not what it's supposed to be. What's their position on it? To make sure that qualified vice chancellors, irrespective of where they come from, are appointed to become vice chancellors. Thank you very much.
Please, you are okay. Senator Oriolo Aderele Adeye.
Thank you, my president, my leaders here present, distinguished senators. I want to congratulate the nominee, Honorable Adamu, being nominated this time around again shows that you have performed well in the first term. There is a question that was asked the other time. Somebody was asked to mention the problem we are facing, but this is a very good place to ask that question because you have been in the education sector before. I will try to give you the answer and how to tackle the problem. That is what I want from you.
Thank you very much.
The answer is this. The problem, by my own note, is indiscipline. The problem we are facing in this country, you will see that we are sitting here since to treat one systemic failure or the other. In education sector, in aviation, in security, everything. But I discovered that the problem is that of indiscipline. How do you want to tackle the problem of indiscipline in this country? Because if you note, if you go down the history lane, the only two governments that we can say has really made serious impact along this direction and where we are able to tackle corruption is when the present president, Buhari Diagbon regime, when he was in government, you know, the issue of indiscipline was tackled and corruption was a little bit tackled. The same thing, the little time Muritala spent in government, that 6 months, he used, I'm giving him the lead way. For the 6 months, we are able to tackle the indiscipline. So my question is that what will be your proposal or suggestion to how we can tackle the issue of indiscipline in this country? Thank you.
You can ask, you can respond to the questions.
Mr. Senate President, with your permission, let me start with the last question. Even though the senator has very helpfully answered it, he's asking, how do I intend to tackle the problem of indiscipline in Nigeria? I think this is a question for everybody here, senators, the executive branch, and the criminal justice system. And it is something that goes deep in the psyche of the Nigerian. I believe, unfortunately, the examples we cited, Muritala and General Muhammad Buhari then as military head of state, I think the tactics used will suggest to me that nobody will succeed in fighting indiscipline in this country and corruption until he uses extrajudicial means, simply because we don't like obeying orders. I think probably I should stop here, because whether it is ethical orientation as practiced during the time of Shagari, or whether it is democracy at Koboko Point, as it was done in Singapore, because Singapore was like Nigeria before, but they had a government that would not tolerate it. And the methods they used were very draconian. And I believe now it is one of the most disciplined societies in the world, not in the third world. So probably that is the only way. I think it is for the government, just like we have now taken the issue of fighting corruption. Corruption and indiscipline should be fought together by this government. And I hope the National Assembly will try to help Mr. President when it comes to the war on corruption. I believe so far this government has fought the glaring cases that have come out or that have been detected. But what we need to do is to enact laws and then be very, very ready to implement them so that they will fight systemic corruption. Because while the government is fighting people who have committed corruption, confiscating property and jailing some, corruption is still going on. Therefore, I think what you need to do is to devise means of fighting the corruption that is in the system. So I hope I have answered your question, sir. And my respected, he is not my colleague, my respected elder, distinguished Sam Egu, has asked about the appointment of vice chancellors. And I know what he means, because I'm always under pressure by people insisting that the vice chancellor must be somebody from their area. Unfortunately, this is no longer in the hands of the university, in the hands of the ministry, because since the time the universities fought for autonomy and they got it, I think even the president has no hand in the election or selection of vice chancellor. I think the process is clear enough. When there is a vacancy, it is advertised, people apply, and then they are called for interview, and the university council selects the vice chancellor. Before, they used to select 3, so that they will send it to the minister will send it to the president for selection. Now it is just for our information. So actually, I think we have passed that stage. The question is for the councils to answer, and I think most of the councils are doing the best they can. And on the issue of open universities, I think it is now the trend in the world. It's just not a question of what the NUC is going to do. It's what the ministry is going to do in order to expand the resources available to NOUN, National Open University of Nigeria. And I think, as I said, the trend all over the world, if you take most of the universities that are opening now, private or state universities, their population at best is 5,000, some up to 10,000. But the National Open University now, the population is around 500,000, I think 400 or something. Therefore, it is our own desire and policy that we should expand the resources available to the National Open University. The first questioner is on primary education. Madam, the question of primary education, I must admit before this House, is a sad story. And when I came as minister, I assembled a group of experts. We sat down to look at all the problems facing education. We came up with 10 points. And the first is out of school children. And the second is question of basic and secondary education, which is what you are asking. I think I don't know actually what to tell the nation, because it is the linchpin of education, and it is the one that is most neglected. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me now, as I answer you, it is not the responsibility of the federal government. And I tried my best to get the states on board through the National Council, on the National Economic Council. So I agree with you that the situation of primary education is very, very bad. But what should be done is perhaps the Riot Act should be read to states. The Federal Ministry of Education has done the best. We have done the study. Just before I handed over the affairs of the ministry, we concluded a study. We have about 10,475,031 out of school children in Nigeria, and it is still the highest. But the work to reduce this is for the states. And the federal government is not in a position to force the states to do so. So I think the National Assembly, the states probably should take this matter to the National Council of States and the National Council of Education, where governors are. And I think the nation should decide, because whatever the Federal Ministry of Education does concerning university education, concerning technical education in our polytechnics, will all come to naught without a very good foundation from the primary schools. Madam, I have answered your question.
Distinguished Senator Ezekiel Ayuba Dimka.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Ezekiel Ayuba Dimka, representing Plateau Central. Congratulations, the nominee.
Thank you, sir.
In the first place, I have one single question which I would like you to respond. There is unemployment vis-a-vis this sort of redundancy in this country. What can you do if you are appointed as Minister of Education?
Minister of what, sir?
Education. What economic policies do you suggest to improve on what we're facing now? That's the question.
Thank you, sir. May I answer it, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Senator Ahmed Njumagu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, President. I have two questions. Yes, sir. Number one, I looked through your CV and I've seen a situation where you are doing two very, very important and vital duties simultaneously. Apart from being a minister, according to your CV, since 1999 to date, you have also been a speech writer and special assistant to General Muhammadu Buhari, yes, according to your CV.
Yes, sir.
So I wonder how you combine this very, very important job, running a big ministry, a Ministry of Education, as well as also doing the vital job of speech writing to Mr. President. How do you do that? Let us know. That's number one. Number two, the issue of strike in Nigerian universities has been a recurring decimal for many, many years.
And for this reason, many parents who can afford it take their children outside Nigeria or to private universities. Being a minister for 4 years, is there any way, in your opinion, that you think we can permanently remove this idea of strike? Because this is very, very peculiar to Nigeria. Most countries of the world, you hardly hear of strike lasting 2 months, 3 months, 6 months in universities. But Nigeria is common. Is there any way you think that we can, what government can do to do away with this strike so that the parents and the children will be comfortable to the Nigerian universities? Thank you.
Senator Ade Dayo Ade.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. I want to commend the nominee for your nomination by the president. I believe it is a measure of the president's estimation of your contribution that made him to nominate you. I also noticed in your CV, and I know you by reputation, that you are a renowned journalist. So it's not too surprising that you are also a speechwriter to the president. I only want to say whether this second role you are taking up as a speechwriter is distracting you from the main work of the Minister of Education. That's number one. But the issue that bothers me mainly is the issue of the number of children out of school in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And you have been minister for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask, what policy measures have you undertaken to ensure that this figure is brought down drastically?
Yes.
Number two is that if one of your predecessors in that ministry, the late Professor Bab Kafunwa, had once advocated that children should be taught in primary schools in their local languages. And today we had the Minister of Science, former Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Bonaya Ono, also saying that children learning two things at the same time may make it very difficult for them to really grasp these things. And that it will be better for the development of science and technology if children are taught in their own local languages. I want to know your perspective on this matter. Do you believe, and is there any policy in place or in the works for children to be taught in their local languages at the primary school level? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can answer the questions.
Okay. This time, with your permission to Senate President, I would like to start from the last question. Professor Bab Swafunwa, may his soul rest in peace, certainly pioneered that. And in order to cut the answer short, sir, there is now in the works, almost finished. Perhaps if we had stayed there 2 months, a new national language policy would have been taken to the Executive Council, and it will address the issue you are saying. In addition, it will even probably try to make some very great foreign languages compulsory, so that at least we'll be able to converse with our neighbors, in addition to having children learn in their mother tongue. The decision is at least the first 3 years of learning should be in one's mother tongue, so that he will not have to have the added burden of having to learn a language that is foreign and then to learn new facts in that language. Some are even saying that perhaps the entirety of basic education, that is primary education and junior secondary school, should be taught in mother tongue. So, sir, such a policy is already there in the ministry. I believe the next minister will find it is one of the things that will be waiting for him on the table, and I hope he will do the necessary. I'm very sorry, Senator, the first question is not very clear. You are asking what I have done. In respect of what? The first question.
In terms of the number of children out of school,
Yes.
the
Okay.
number 14 million.
The figure I gave you, which was very exact, 10,475,031 was the exact number of out-of-school children in February. February 2018. And then from that time, there was an enrollment drive by about 6 states. Sorry, in addition, there was 6,749,000 children out of junior secondary school, a total of 16, almost 17 million children. But an enrollment drive within that period to the time the census was done was able to reduce the number by 4 million. So actually, some of the states are doing what the ministry is saying. It is not actually for the Federal Ministry of Education to do this, but we give the guidance and we give intervention when it is necessary, and I think it is succeeding. Senator Goji has asked about strikes. So even though we don't have anybody to blow our trumpet, I think this administration has had the least number of strikes. And then also the strikes that had been shortest, because immediately as we declare strike, we meet, you find that, I know sometimes you had to intervene, but they always call them off. And I think also I have I don't know that it is the distinction or notoriety of being the Minister of Education who sees things sometimes in the way ASU does. And I think that is all that is needed in order to have strikes forever gone. Number one, there is a question of funding. And I would like to tell you that there is a funding plan right now on the table of the next Minister of Education. If it is adopted, I believe there will be no strike in Nigeria again, because it will solve all the problems that ASU has been pursuing government over. And sir, distinguished Senator Goji, you asked about me being speechwriter to the president. Sir, I started to become speechwriter to the president in 1994, and officially as a special assistant in TED Fund. I was doing it up to 1999 when he left. And then when I also left immediately after him, I became his unofficial speechwriter until he became president. And now that he's president, I think his speech is a collective, collaborative effort. So it is something that I think anybody could help do. I don't think if I were to do it will interfere with my ministerial duties. But even if it will, sir, I think it will be such a small time. And in any case, the power that I'm exercising in the ministry, the power of the president, which he lent to me, if he said I should use part of it to write his speeches, sir, I think it should be okay. Distinguished Senator Hezekiah Dimka. Sir, I didn't hear the question very well. You're asking of redundancy?
Yeah. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my question is too much unemployment and redundancy in this country, especially private sector.
Yes.
What are your economic policies you think you can suggest if you are made
Yes,
Minister for Education?
I get it, sir. Sir, since in the Ministry of Education we don't have economic policies, what we do have are policies about technical education, vocational education. And I believe if the government is going to do it, the moment we start doing that, I don't think we'll be producing any unemployed people again. So it is under one of the 10 pillars I told you. There is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. And then there is TVET, technical vocational education and training. These are the two things that we are pushing, and I believe they are the things that pull out all other societies out of unemployment. And I believe with due care, if we do it here, we'll be fully employed in Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Senator Balana Allah, Senator Matthew Rogide, and Senator Diri Doi. In that order, please.
Well, this Mr. Nominee, you have answered part of the question that I wanted to ask, but I want to build upon it because I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the base, the educational base that does not support the pyramid that we are supposed to build for this country. My concern is you have expressed the hopelessness of federal government in its inability to force the state to do the needful for the purpose of supporting, let me put it this way, the educational pyramid of this country. Is there a way, because I'm trying to compare what we saw in 2018 as the budget for education in Ghana compared to its population, and then what we have compared again to our population. I think more straight to the point is the fact that if you look at the number of out-of-school children in Ghana and the one you have given to us here too, all that it did is to reinforce your earlier statement that the states have not been really forthcoming as far as the issue of supporting the base is concerned. But you see, we have a commitment as a country, as a government, to see how we can turn things around for the better.
Yes, sir.
And it is part of that commitment that you told us that at least after that very scaring figure, some states were encouraged to do some beef of, and about 4 million was reduced from that very horrendous number. Is there a way, and between me and you know that there is so much wastage as far as the states are concerned. We all know this. Is there a way you think the Senate, in our new determination to turn things around, the National Assembly in particular, can help in trying to address this particular problem? Because my fear is that if we do not have the base that we have, and then we continue to go the way we are going, whether we can validly say that we are not running a highly dislocated educational system, which will end up being very, very harmful to the society. So is there a way you think you can suggest to the Senate how we can intervene to see how this thing can be redirected? Thank you.
Senator Matthew Rogide.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Matthew Rogide, Edo South. First, let me lend my voice to, congratulate you on your nomination, Mr. President. I think the questions that will be thrown at you will not really be too many, because education is supposed to be one of the cornerstones or pillars for development of any society. And if a man too has to be assessed for whatever duties or responsibilities is going to be charged with, probably look back at what, of course, he has done in the past. When you came in 2015 for this same confirmation hearing, some of us have thought that because of your background, you were probably good, your background that is journalism, you were probably going to be thrown, to that office. But when you were sent to education, and of course having followed to, the trend in the country, we have found out very clearly that we have not made any advancements. NECO, WAEC results that we still see, we get every year, we still have less than 30%, pass. And some time ago, one of your predecessors in office specifically Mrs. Obiageli Ezekwesili, was Minister of Education. And after her tenure, she was taken to task that what is responsible for the mass failure that we have been recording. Yes, I'm going to ask. Of course, she too, had tried to explain. It seems we are not moving forward. Now the question is, do you think it's a matter of policy alone, or funding, or the both? Something basically we are getting wrong in education. What do you think that is? Number two, in the Senate, the Ethics, Privilege and Public Petition Committee was inundated with petitions that came from the students of the Open University that were in the law faculty. Of course, we called the DG of the Advanced Legal Education, who is responsible for the law school here in Buhari. And the students till today are in despair. What are we going to do about them? Because open education, system is affording them the opportunity of being trained or of getting tertiary education. Till today, a lot of them have been trained. What are you going to do about it so that they can be incorporated to go to law school? I think the other things I wanted to ask my distinguished colleagues have asked. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Why are you happy?
I may forget it.
Senator Diri Doye.
Thank you, Mr. President and Chairman of this committee. My name remains Senator Diri Doye, representing Bayelsa Central Senatorial District. My first question is about the very rich CV that we have gone through. But sir, the only supporting document that I find in the CV is the NYSC. There is no other certificate that has been attached. Very rich CV, I said. I said very rich CV. And I'm saying that what I can see here attached. Mr. President, I believe I'm protected. Thank you. So that's one. That's one. Then two, as the immediate past Minister of Education, education we all know is on the concurrent list. Are you satisfied with the state of education in Nigeria? I'm coming. If yes, the reasons that you gave, even here on this floor, don't you think that there is still more that you can do, assuming you are posted back to the Ministry of Education? Then, I'm coming, please.
Order, please. Distinguished Senator Diri Doye, we have a policy that was adopted at the beginning of this exercise. You have a maximum of 2 questions to ask. I think you have exhausted the questions. Now we can ask the nominee to respond to the questions raised. No, it's too late. It's too late. It's too late. Honourable Minister, you can respond to the questions. You can respond.
Order.
You can respond to the questions.
Yes, sir. Senator Balana Allah. No, I'm saying you asked 3 questions. I'm sorry, sir. You are asking whether there are things that should be done. And I said the Senate can do 3 things. That is my suggestion to the Senate. But the practicality of the suggestions is for the Senate to determine. Number one, since you said it is concurrent list, and the president hasn't got the power to compel states to do what he wants on education, you can give him the powers. If small emergency or anything, I believe the Senate can get a solution in that direction. It's a constitutional issue. The other one, when Mr. President lays the budget here, I believe he's going to give more money to education, but you can insist that it should not be less than 15%. And I believe you'll be helping in that way. The third one, sir, is a question of will on the state government. I'm sure if you turn side to your left, there is a governor sitting here who is called Shetima Kasim. I think just as he was leaving, the things he did to education, I was so surprised. And if all governors will do that, I think probably we'll stop complaining, sir. No, sir, I'm sure there are many other governors, but I think one example should be enough. Yes. Okay, somebody asked about my background and then the ministry to which I was sent. So I believe, and this is my opinion, and I think probably it is not wrong, the duty of a minister is not to go and do in his ministry what he has studied in school. It is to go and manage people and then manage resources. So the question is, if you were to consider power was given to a lawyer in this administration, and science and technology, or rather communications, was given to another lawyer, and I believe they did very well. So if you can manage people and then you can manage resources, and then you will do some probity, I believe you will achieve results. So it is just the management of people. And there is, in fact, a saying, and there is proof, if you like, it can be given, that if you are a specialist and you are sent to a ministry, other specialities will suffer. For instance, if you take an oncologist, a doctor who is an oncologist, and you send him to the Ministry of Health as minister, most of the budget will go buying oncology equipment and so on and so forth. I think this has been proved through so many years. And Senator Matthews, your second question. Your question is, I think it has already been answered, because it is not a matter of policy that education is still the way it is. I think it is the will to implement what states are supposed to do, so that they will be laying a strong foundation upon which the federal government can build.
Mr. President, we are running out of time for the
Distinguished from
for the nominee.
Bayelsa Central, you are asking the CV. I would like to apologize if there are some deficiencies in the CV, but sir, you can prove it even here. The secondary school I attended, I think there is Hezekiah Dimka, who is my classmate. He can attest to the fact that I attended there and I passed my WASC. And there is another person you are going to see today, Dingyadi. I believe Senator Wamako can find out from him. We attended SBS and ABU at the same time, and I got my degree. And I don't know whether Dele Olojode is here, because he was my classmate in Columbia University in New York. We graduated together. So, sir, I assure you that if you require it, I can go and bring it. It was just an oversight, sir. Sir?
You should take a bow and go. Take a bow. Yeah. Take a bow and go.
Distinguished colleagues, is it the wish of the Senate that the nominee takes a bow and go? Those in favor of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. But before, well, Honourable Minister, I had wanted to make some comments. before you take the bow, we strongly feel that we should work together in the educational sector. You have tried to reduce the number of out-of-school children. I think you have taken out about 2 or 3 million. 4 million. We want to see a situation where we are going to take out the remaining 10 million in the next 4 or 5 years. If it is possible, it's something we have passion for. We believe that this is not only an educational problem, but a security challenge to us. And those of us who are privileged, majority of us here, people from very humble background. I am, for one. And I'm privileged to go to school. Probably I would have been like any of those kids outside of school. And it is our responsibility as leaders to ensure that we do anything and everything possible to get these children out of school, back to school or into schools. That will require a lot of funding, a lot of recruitment of teachers and training and retraining. I think we should have the determination to do those things that will get these out-of-school children into schools in our interest. So we pray that you are back to your ministry, if that is the choice of Mr. President, and we hope that you will be available to work with us, our committees, to ensure that we achieve this set goal and target. Thank you very much. We can take a bow. Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, we have the one and only First Lady to enter, and you know we are gender sensitive. So the next nominee is going to be a lady. No, Baongo, let the lady come first.
Well, this is the first female nominee to be screened by the Senate, Sharon Ibazun from Anambra State. She was born into the family of Chief Chimeze Ibazun in Obosi. She had a Bachelor of Science Law in 1984 and was called to the Nigerian bar in 1985.
Mr. President, the chamber is set.
Distinguished senators, where's the CV? I don't have the CV. Distinguished colleagues, we have our sister here, Honorable Sharon Ikezo, someone that would have joined this Senate. Let me, on behalf of all of us, welcome the nominee to the Senate chambers. And Mrs. Ikezo, we have your CV. Nevertheless, you can still tell the Senate and highlight those particular things in your CV that you think are so important to be elaborated upon, and those things that are not in the CV but you feel the Senate will find them helpful in taking its decision in the confirmation. So you are invited to address the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished President of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, distinguished Deputy Senate President, Senator Ovie Omoagege, and all other distinguished senators. But I would like to particularly recognize the senators from my home state of Anambra. Senator Adeze Odua Ekenemgi, Senator Uche Lilian Ekunife Iyom Ekenemgi, and the newest, Senator Ifeanyi Uba Dalunu. Thank you. Then I also salute every other female senator in these hallowed chambers. But I would also like to express
Order.
I would like to express my profound gratitude to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, who never judged me by my tribe, my religion, or my gender. He always judged me by my ability to do the job. I thank him very much, and I'm really honored to be in your presence today. I'm not forgetting my pensioners, NUP. I know you are up there. That has become my constituent since I came in here as the Executive Secretary of PITAD. That is a job I had been very, very passionate about. And I would also like to thank the Senate, because when we come to defend the budget for PITAD, the Senate, the House Committee on Establishment, starting with Senator Polka, now Senator Aline Dume, they have been very, very helpful in backing PITAD to execute its mandate of taking care of our pensioners. I started my political career in 2011 by joining the CPC. What made me take that plunge from private sector as a lawyer? The Sosoliso plane crash of 2005. That was when I joined CPC, because I felt that crash was as a result of negligence. People would say it's an act of God, but there are certain things that are actually pure negligence. We as women, we organized rallies, protest marches in Abuja, protesting that plane crash. But what was the consequence for action? Nothing. Nothing happened. So I now felt I needed a platform where my voice would be heard to fight social injustice. That is how I joined the Congress for Progressive Change. And after that, I emerged as the interim national woman leader of the APC as well. I found myself heading an agency that cares for the aged, our senior citizens. In our national anthem, we say, "The labors of our heroes past shall never be in vain." But we find that we have been owing pensions to our pensioners. So I took it personally, and I am glad we achieved a lot in sorting out the pension issue in Nigeria. We have restored hope in pension administration in Nigeria today. Because if we do not solve our pension problems, we will never rid this country of corruption. One other issue that's passionate to my heart as well is the issue of women development and the training and mentoring of young women in politics. I set up the APC Young Women's Forum to create space for the younger women in politics. That is an aside to my CV. But before all this, being in politics, I had worked in different areas. I've been in project management. I have been in the merchant banks when Nigeria started the merchant banks in the early 80s, actually. I have also worked with a US company that brought in General Electric. I was a principal consultant for the General Electric. This NIPP we talk about today was an area I was involved in as well. So I thank you all for listening to me. I would like to try and keep it as brief as possible. Thank you very much.
You know, this chamber is very gender sensitive.
Yes.
So I want to just make a comment, and in the spirit of that sensitivity, the nominee, if you approve, can take a bow. But before she takes a bow, I'm sure that we are all impressed by her background, her determination, her commitment. Order. So I will put the question. Is it the view of this Senate that the nominee takes a bow and go? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow. Distinguished colleagues, this is the farthest we can go today, and I think we have done a very wonderful job. Tomorrow will be another day for this exercise to continue. So let me invite the leader. Motion to revert to plenary, please.
Mr. President, sitting on the chair, distinguished colleagues, I hereby move that the chair moves to plenary to report progress. I so move.
I so second.
Those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the request of Mr. Presidency in C for the confirmation of nominees for appointments as ministers of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The nominees answered questions from distinguished senators on a number of topical issues. The nominees screened are one, Honorable Amechi Rotimi from Rivers, 2, Dr. Obone Onu from Ebonyi State, 3, Senator Adeleke Mamora from Lagos State, 4, Architect Olamilekon Adegbite from Ogun State, 5, Malang Adamu from Bauchi State, and 6, Sharon Ekezo from Anambra State. As ministers of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Distinguished colleagues, tomorrow, Thursday, we'll continue with this exercise, and tomorrow we have the following nominees to appear before the Senate. Senator Tayo Olashedura from Ondo, Honorable Mustafa Babashahuri from Borno, Bashir Salihi Magashi from Kano, Honorable Timi Pre Martin Silva from Bayelsa, Hajia Ramatu Tijani Aliyu from Kogi, Otumba Richard Adeni Adebayo from Ekiti State, Alhaji Abdullahi Mohammed from Nasarawa State, and Mr. Sunday Akindare from Oyo State, 8 of them. So we have already circulated the CVs of we will continue. We'll work on the CVs And we can even take more tomorrow. But these are the ones we start with tomorrow morning. As the day progresses tomorrow, we can have the copies of more CVs distributed. Today we have done with 10, and I think we can do with same tomorrow, even better. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate is hereby adjourned till tomorrow, Thursday, the 25th day of July 2019 at 10 a.m. prompt.
Well, this is where we'll round off today's edition of the live broadcast of Senate plenary for the screening of the ministerial nominees. We'll now hand you over to our studios for the continuation of the scheduled program for the day. I am Ignatius Nko, and on behalf of the outside broadcast crew, we say bye for now, and join us again by 11 o'clock tomorrow for the continuation of the second part of the screening. Bye for now.